This meeting is being recorded.
What is up, guys? So, if you have been following the Morning Chalk Up Instagram page, you have probably seen that there have been some pretty significant announcements in the CrossFit space in the last 2 or 3 posts that they've done. They did an article or a write up on the games moving from Madison, Wisconsin in 2023 to Birmingham, Alabama. There are mixed opinions on that one. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit deeper. And then there was also a post, and I think there might have been an article or a write up on this, that the Dubai Fitness Championship now is de-affiliating from CrossFit due to the fees that they are having to pay CrossFit to be an affiliated event. Um, I don't know exactly what those fees were, but I've heard numbers floated around of upwards of $75,000, which is a pretty significant sum of money for a CrossFit competition. Um, but wanted to dive into the Birmingham thing first. And really the big reason that I wanted to just kind of get this out there and make this video is back in 2018, we had some big announcements from CrossFit stating that they were going to be done with regionals and they were coming up with a new format. And this threw a lot of athletes for a crazy loop. People literally quit the sport. I lost like 5 people at the time coaching because of it. It was a pretty big news and announcement. And along with this Dubai thing, there appears to be some writing on the wall that CrossFit is potentially losing control of the sport. Now, that is kind of my opinion there. Um, but wanted to get ahead and say that athletes, you should probably be prepared for some pretty significant changes inside of the sport in the next couple years. I think these changes will probably be for the better. And if there isn't changes, CrossFit will kind of always find a way to work things out. Um, when when CrossFit moved from California to Madison, that was a pretty big move. And there was kind of some similar sentiment along the lines of, why are you taking away from this awesome location? Um, but they found a way to make it work, and it actually turned out to be a pretty good venue. It took some time to figure it out. The first year was a little interesting with that. I forget what cyclocross or something like that, and there was literally like trash piles in the background of the of the live stream. So it took a little bit of time to figure it out, but they did improve their production value. They did figure it out and ended up actually becoming a pretty okay venue for CrossFit to run their event at. So Birmingham will probably end up being the same thing. Things have a way of working themselves out for the better, or just to work in general. I don't know, obviously, the details of the deal or why they had to make the move, or if Birmingham was a higher bidder and now they're getting more money and this might just be like a stepping stone process for them. But if you are not super psyched about um, the games moving to Birmingham, which I imagine is, I like Alabama. But if I like something, probably 90% of the rest of the population doesn't like it. So there's probably some large sentiment to not enjoying the fact that the games are moving to Alabama. But again, everything has a way of working itself out. There's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. Athletes are going to have to really get used to the heat unless they're doing literally everything inside, which would kind of be a bummer because part of CrossFit is the cool experience of watching people able to compete outside. So that would kind of be a bummer. But so athletes are going to have to get used to the heat. So there'll be some things that you kind of have to manage and navigate as things change. But this kind of ties into the previous statement that I made, where CrossFit is potentially losing control of the sport. I don't think their fan base is going to be super excited about this move to Birmingham. Uh, as well as one of the biggest payout competitions, the Dubai Fitness Championship, is now de-affiliating from CrossFit, and you're probably going to see a spiral effect of other competitions doing this as well. I can't remember if Rogue is a sponsored event or not. I would imagine that they're not at this point in time, but they are probably pretty likely to be one of the bigger competitions now. And so kind of what I mean by that is you might see events becoming solo events becoming the sport now. Or you might see these kind of one-off events like Rogue and Dubai starting to team up to do some sort of circuit or something like that. So back in 2018, when CrossFit got rid of regionals, I was really hoping that something like this was going to happen, where Dubai, Granite Games, Wadapalooza, Rogue all kind of teamed up to do their own competition circuit and then have some sort of kind of finale at the end of it, whatever that might be. If you got a certain score at each one of these competitions, or a placing was a score, and then if you reached a certain score minimum, you got to compete at the championship of this three event thing or something like that. I don't know if that is what the landscape will shape out to be, but I think a landscape like that, it's been talked about by tons of people, is a better opportunity for athletes. You'll get more athletes competing, I think, at these big events, especially if it starts to become a circuited event. And I think it'll just allow for more sponsorships to come into the sport, more opportunity for athletes to make money at these events. In general, I think if you are to run it that way, it will end up being a better overall experience for the athletes. If we go back to kind of that first Rogue competition as well, it felt, if you guys remember watching it, or maybe you're a little bit newer, but if you'd been around then, it just felt like CrossFit was CrossFit again. There's a unique feel that kind of the games had back in 2012, 2013, 2014. That it was just it was still new, but there was this kind of feel to the events that was just different. Challenged the athletes to the point that their ability levels were at, but it didn't over push them, and it wasn't this like crazy amount of volume. It was, the games this year did a good job of that, but Rogue, take it back, 3 years when they first did the sanctionals thing, had that event, or had that feel right off the bat. So I think it opens up the opportunity for competitions to experiment with their programming a little bit more, which is always a good thing for competitions to do. You get more biases in the program, instead of just one person deciding, like it was back when regionals were a thing. Is like, this bias is this bias goes to the games, or the top athletes go to the games. Like, now you get a more well-rounded selection, which we're seeing with semifinals right now. But again, if they circuit it, now you get a much more well-rounded athlete that's going to the games. You probably get a closer selection to the top athletes that are going to the games. So yeah, to kind of bring that point back together, like just get ahead with your thought process that there's probably going to be some big changes coming in the sport within the next year to 2 years here. Change is scary, but at the same time, change always has a way of working itself out for the better. But I think, again, this, I think, opens the door for more sponsorships if something like this were to happen. And more sponsorships means more money, more airtime for CBS or ABC, whoever runs the games now. So, get ahead of that, kind of prepare yourself for some change, so that you aren't just kind of blindsided by it, and it's a shock factor, and you're like, why am I even doing this anymore? Like, the reason we do this is because we love it. It's fun. Some people get to make a living off of it, which is super cool for them. But don't I don't think the sport's going anywhere. I think there's still enough money in it. I think there's, still enough opportunity in the sport. And so if you're kind of that bubble level athlete that's really trying to fight for placings at events or trying to go to some of these bigger events, try and get your name out there, like this is just an obstacle that kind of is going to present itself in your long journey along this fitness career. So, kind of if you can get ahead of it now and prepare your mind now for this kind of bump in the road, um, you'll be better off when that bump potentially happens. So again, I don't this is all just my opinion, theory, just kind of seeing some of the writing on the wall here with CrossFit, with Dubai stepping down, for stepping down as an affiliated event. Some of these events like Rogue are giving out some serious payouts. Even Wadapalooza a couple of years ago was a pretty big payout. I can't remember what exactly their payouts were this year, but I think they're pretty big again. So, I think it's going to offer some athletes some opportunities that they might not get, getting a one-off shot at competing at the games. They might be able to garner some opportunities competing at some of these, local events, and that honestly might become the sport. But yeah, just moral of the story, guys, is just get ahead of it. Don't let learn from that 2018 experience where they got rid of regionals, and just kind of prep yourself and understand that the sport's not really going anywhere. And so you guys are going to have an opportunity, potentially more of an opportunity if things are to change. So some pretty big news, but I think it's also exciting in the long run and potentially shaping up for some better opportunities for athletes. So we will catch you guys next time here.